Hello, Parsons students. This is Marcos Chavez, and I'm here to present our Core 3 Topics lecture series on branding and to give you some case studies on the process of branding through the work I've done. So let's dive in. So here's a quick review of what we'll be talking about. We're going to be exploring what a brand is, and we're going to find out the distinctions between internal and external branding, talk about the process and how it starts within each of us, and then look at some examples of work, including inside a healthy brand. So let's go. So what is a brand? So this question is probably not a question that any of you came to Parsons wondering or not knowing what a brand is. We all know what brands are. Brands are everywhere. They're pervasive in our lives. They do so many things for us. They're in front of us every day. They're choices we make all the time, and they serve real important purposes. They keep us safe. They feed us. They make us feel better. They get us around, and they're also choices we make that help define who we are as individuals. The choices we make in the clothes we wear and the products we buy and the things that connect to us personally. So brands serve a big purpose in our world, and because of that, we're all very well versed in the language of brand and brand identity. In fact, I want to kind of do a quick little test here just to maybe remind ourselves how sophisticated we really are. And it's not just because we're designers and design students. It's, I think, something that all of us as humans in the 21st century are trained to be able to see and understand things. So here's we're going to have a quiz. I know this is a lecture. Nobody told me there was a quiz. Well, there's a quiz, and this is what we're going to do. I'm going to flash before you a set of 12 brand logos, global brand logos that are well known or have been around. And I just want each of you to kind of do a test to see. I'm going to go like really fast, and will you recognize them? Will it be too fast? Will you be able to understand not just what the brand stands for, but what the brand looks like and who it's from, but what it stands for? Let's go. You ready? All right, here we go. Okay, well, that was super fast, but think about it for a second. Think about what you just saw flash before your eyes in less than 2 seconds, maybe. You saw 12 logos, 12 identities. And I'm pretty sure that if you stopped right now, maybe even pause the video and you kind of wrote down what you thought you remember, don't rewind, don't cheat. I bet you can come up with at least 6 for sure. And if you thought about it a little further and you really stretched it, like, you probably can come up with maybe 8 to 10, maybe even all of them. And maybe you will miss them because you don't even know what the company was that I showed you. I think they're all familiar and recognizable, but I think it tells us a lot. It tells us that we are well trained in this idea of visual elements and the idea of utilizing just short strokes, color forms, typography, put it together in this little form in something that we can not only identify the name of something, but identify the entire world, the entire value system that brand stands for. And if anything, we're so good at it that if we put a test against another topic that may even be seemingly more important, like plants, we'll probably find that we would struggle to be as good at it as we are with the brands that we know. So now the question is a brand just a visual thing? Is a brand just something we look at, something that's in front of us? Is a brand just a noun, or is a brand more than that? Could it be maybe a verb? And this is a quote that says, a brand is a person's gut feeling about a product, service, or company. So what's interesting about this quote here is that it makes a brand become something that we feel, something that is within each individual that experiences the brand, whether it's me or whether it's you. It's a feeling we have about something. And if it's a gut feeling, that means that it's something that lives inside of us, that is outside of a physical shape, outside of a physical form, outside of what a brand thinks it is or what it stands for, the organization, the service, the product. A brand is something that is owned by each individual who encounters it. And this other quote here says, a brand is a living entity, and it's enriched or undermined cumulatively over time, the product of 1,000 small gestures. So this is really even further implying this idea that brands are connected to not just the 3 dimensions, but the 4th, time. Brand is connected to our experiences every day. And that means that a brand's perception could change in a moment's notice. It could become something that goes from negative to positive to negative. And it's something that has to be managed overall by the people in charge of the branding effort. And whether it's the kind of visual identity communication pieces that go out, or the kind of messaging or the kind of values that a brand stands for. It's something that needs to be maintained every day. And then because it's something that goes on through the process of time, we can imply that basically a brand is alive. A brand is something that is ongoing, growing, changing, and it's something that needs to be managed through the process of marketing, through the process of branding, through the process of overall representing a company or service in a consistent way that aligns with a set of values. So this process of branding, what does it do? What's it good for? Like why do we need it? And as we just talked about, the idea of branding is all about continuing to bring a message out there and continuing to try to meet a goal. And part of that is building loyalty and branding. This is a disciplined process, and we use it to build awareness and extend loyalty to the customers that we're trying to reach or that we're trying to serve. And with branding, it helps empower individuals like you and I to make choices. Branding is really kind of this idea of this democratic process. Like we have a vote in what we think should be elevated to be important by making a purchase, by making a choice. If we choose a brand over another brand, we are participating in this natural selection process of letting things become better. And because of that, it sparks competitiveness. So the fact that we have brands out there that we can choose from and brands out there that offer us different options means that companies and organizations need to be pulling out their finest and improving and evolving in a way that's going to make our lives and everyone else's lives better because of the different choices that are made through the competitiveness that branding offers. And overall, it just gives us leadership. It gives us a North Star. When you have a brand, you have a set of values, and that set of values needs to be expressed in a consistent way. And by having those sets of values, then a brand can put itself out there in a way that communicates the goals that are intended by that brand. So why are brand identities needed? Brands provide an emotional connection. Like it helps us connect to what something stands for and what it means for. It helps give us an infinite amount of choices and the things that we can elect to be part of our lives, and a choice and navigation that makes our ability to make those choices easier. So it's a navigation tool. We can see what we want and select it because of the flags and the cues that we see from a brand that let us know that that's the one that we want. And also it's a relationship. We build trust and belief through the branding process, through the communication that happens through the branding process. And that trust and belief ends up having, and it's a little corny, but lifelong relationships with the brand. Like we have the choices, we have the things that we know, that we buy, that we purchase, that we make part of our lives, and we stick with them throughout our lives unless they betray us. All right, so let's now talk about this distinction between internal and external branding. And this may be something that's a new concept for you, but it's a pretty important aspect of looking at how brands work. Because when we talk about internal and external branding, we begin to tap into the human element. We begin to look at this in the kind of same value system that we do, how we look at each of us as individuals. And what makes up each of us as individuals is this idea that we stand for something, we have a purpose, we have meaning that we express through our lives. And with the branding process, the brand's purpose is to act as the driver for the business. So when we think of the idea of business and commerce and free markets, a lot of times it gets reduced to this idea of making money or having profits. And the thing is that making money, having profits, those are the result of something. And the real purpose of business or brands is to be out there representing something, be out there having meaning in some way, be out there offering something unique that will then result in profits, hopefully, but it's not typically the purpose of what a brand does. So when we're looking at brands in the sort of this duo nature with internal and external, we kind of go towards this idea of the full lifespan of the brand. It's almost like a creation process. We have brand emergence and ignition. It's this idea of like something coming to life and then living through a set of values. So when you look at internal branding, we're looking at what's the soul of the brand. What is the what's the meaning behind the brand, what's its strategy. And we look at external branding, we look at like the physical form of the brand, like the body and soul. And the brand expression is what external branding is, how it lives out those values, lives out the messaging that defines it. And when we look at breaking these two up in a more specific way, we look at the idea that internal and external branding have these two aspects that these pie charts represent. There's on the left, we look at internal, which has to do with a lot of the creation of a brand and how those values get set up and how they get implemented in ways in terms of like the attitudes, the images, the actions, how the brand wants to speak, wants to express itself. And then the external part of the brand is how that message comes out in physical forms and in physical actions. So it could be part of the pre-purchase experience, it could be part of the post-purchase experience, or the actual experience of purchasing something. But throughout these two elements of external and internal is the full scope of the life of a brand. And in each of these processes, us as visual communication professionals have the opportunity to work within how we influence how these brands can come to life in a visual way, even though it's more than just a visual element. All right, so internal branding, the purpose, it's communication of purpose provides meaning, and it allows us to be more creative by having a set of values we understand, become more efficient, more productive, happier, and fulfilled. All right, so the process starts within. Let's talk a little bit about how this process works, and it becomes kind of an individual relationship that we have. And I want to kind of take the clock back a little bit to when I was a student like you back in my days in art school. And I remember sitting in a lecture at an art history class, a little bit tired and maybe not quite fully there, but it was on post-impressionism, and Gauguin came up and this painting came up, and the teacher with a very authoritative voice said, the name of this painting tells us and asks us the three big questions in life. And that kind of woke me up, like in more the ways than one, like, wait, there are three big questions in life? I had never heard that there were three big questions in life. Nor did I know what those questions were. And for sure, I didn't know what the answers of those three big questions are. And so he said that this painting asks, where did I come from? Why am I here? Where am I going? And for me, that was like the moment of understanding that part of this human experience that each of us are sharing is about like really finding the purpose in what we're doing and how we're living, and why we're here, and to look back at the importance of like our heritage, connecting to all those things that brought us to the point where we are here, and then to be thinking about how we're going to use those to define who we are, and to understand our value system, to understand the things that make us unique, and to then not just understand them, but live through them, live by them, and live up to them. So going further in my story here, it turns into finishing school and working for a while, and then starting my own company. I have a company design firm called Toda, and I've been doing this for almost 25 years, I think, and started this company with a friend of mine from college. So making friends in school is important. And in my journey to build this company, I wanted to be able to create the kind of design practice that offered a multidisciplinary approach to design, through communication design and product design. My partner was an architect and product designer, and so we had a kind of a 3D and communication design foundation to be able to do work that allowed us to present our abilities as not just graphic designers, but as people who can work in design space, and be able to have our solutions not be focused on just one medium, whether it's packaging or whether it's advertising or web work, but be able to create visual identities that then can be implemented through print, through packaging, through exhibit, through all different forms of mediums, and part of that allowed us to do projects that gave us the opportunity to kind of work within this idea of branding and internal and external branding. And one of these projects was we were asked by the AIGA, and probably all of you know what that is, but in case you don't, that's our professional organization that kind of looks out for each of us as designers. And and they looked at this idea of where they were as an organization, and they had been around for decades, and wanted to make a change up towards being a different kind of organization that goes from being kind of from top down to bottom up. And they needed to make a big announcement about how they wanted to announce that they were looking at their value system and looking at their internal structure, and to promote themselves as a new kind of organization that was going to look at our industry in a way that was more grassroots and was more about connecting with designers. So we proposed this idea of looking at, well, what have other organizations in the past done when they needed to make kind of a radical change and shift the hierarchy of their structures. And one of those, what came to mind, of course, was this idea of a manifesto. And when Walter Gropius wanted to start the Bauhaus, and the first thing he did was write a manifesto. Or when Martin Luther decided that the Catholic Church was not quite doing it right, he wrote a manifesto and nailed it to the door of the church. Or if you have a punk rock band, and you probably want to write a manifesto, so he said, let's write a manifesto, and created this idea of literally putting our values out in a statement, and having the AIGA pronounce that what they want to be about in a very definitive way through text, and creating a campaign that announced that, and kind of took a big risk to change their structure and to try to connect to designers in a new way by utilizing this branding campaign that offered this statement, and enrolled designers into this changing form of structure. And so it was about creating a bunch of different pieces, and building a brand that isn't just about a single visual. And that's not just about the manifesto, but it's about connecting with people, sharing their points of view through video, and doing different things like these temporary tattoos to show just the sort of passion of our industry, and how we wear our values on our sleeve, literally on our arms. All right, so this is just sort of two more. We're going to look at two more things, but this is a smaller, medium-sized case study on a brand that I've been associated from the very beginning of my career. I'm very fortunate to be able to have met a person when I was a young designer just out of school, who had this vision about starting a new line of men's grooming products. And this was back in the mid 90s. And back then it was a different kind of world, and men's grooming was just, there was no such thing. It was like a unisex or women. And this guy was a barber, and he owned a shop, and he said, I want to start this brand, and I want it to be about these kind of old-fashioned apothecary values of barbershops, and bring barbershops back from the dusty old days and to being cool again, and being relevant to men. And so I worked with him to help name the brand, to help create these first batches of products that started off as just, I made these empty bottles that picked out the right kind of shapes, and then filled them with pancake syrup so that they had the right kind of color, and laid out the typography for the name with the tagline, and got some press type and rubbed it on the bottles, and ended up making these prototypes that were the very first beginning of what the brand was to look like. And from there, developed a bunch of marketing pieces that helped announce what this brand was out to do, to revolutionize the beauty industry, to bring in men to the shop, and to bring in an option for salons to be able to not only offer men's grooming products, but also having American Crew be an education brand that goes into shops and teaches barbers and stylists how to cut men's hair, and then how they would ongoingly create new trends, and each of those new trends would connect with a new kind of product. So that if a new trend offers a certain way of cutting hair, they teach that way, and then they offer a product that helps maintain that hair. So it was really an interesting and revolutionary brand that came in and utilize a two-tier system of audience. Like first, it was they spoke primarily to the professionals, to the barbers, to the stylists, and got them on board to their brand, taught them about the brand, and then those professionals would then be behind the chair with somebody like you and I, which would be the second tier, the consumer. And so this was sort of a kind of a brilliant way to have this internal brand be in a two-step form where they would teach different people from around the world within these different local barbershops and salons about the brand, and that would then they would have these living touch points, these humans who spoke about the brand, was passionate about the brand, and would convince us and teach us how to utilize the products in the best way possible. So in doing that, like I said, a brand is alive, right? So it's about spending decades now of like creating different kinds of promotional pieces that helped. Oh, sure. That helped bring the vision of American Crew and the style, the attitude, and sort of the messaging of the brand. This was a video as part of a campaign when we utilized Elvis Presley as the brand ambassador for the brand, and created this groom like the king campaign with the idea of like rock and roll values and the heritage of a lot of the hairstyles that America represents around this idea of celebrating the king. And throughout the years, like having many different kind of campaigns that all have to do with this idea of celebrating men's hairstyles and men's attitudes, and try to elevate the game of men overall, and bring forth like sort of the best in each individual by showcasing new styles, new looks, whether it's hair or beard or shave, and creating overall kind of a messaging that connected to both the consumers and also to the professionals. And this is a campaign we did for celebrating their 25th year, which was a few years ago. We're getting closer to 30 actually. But this was a campaign that overall brought together not only visuals from the past, but brought in new visuals that kind of created this excitement about how American Crew was the pioneer of this of men's grooming overall, and is continuing to be the leader of men, and they're now known as the world's #1 premium men's hair brand. And also that involved doing just a 360 level of kind of pieces from digital to print. And being in a salon, you have this unique, being in different salons around the world, you have this unique opportunity to actually be in a physical space and to be able to offer not only pieces that are within a salon shop, whether it's posters on the wall or elements on the shelf, but also to have somebody sitting at a chair in front of a table and be able to offer things like this book and create these premium print pieces that really showcase the photography, showcase the visual, the product, the product knowledge, and overall like make American Crew a very, very tangible brand that has these old world values, but also is modern and progressive in its presentation. Okay, and then and yeah, so that leads to overall just having American Crew be a brand that ongoingly presents its messaging through various kinds of advertising and posters and being out there to make sure that they're connecting continually to their audience, whether it's the guy behind the chair or the person behind the chair who's the pro. And this is a campaign we did called the Style Makers, and this is where we celebrated the barbers and connected them with their customers in a unique way, while also promoting different individual products that give the looks that are essential to getting the finished product. The relationship you have and the trust you have with the barber, and the products that are innovative and high performing that end up with the result, the cool guy in the end. All right, so let's go one more big case study here, which is going to be inside a healthy brand. And part of the work I've done over the years is to work with Johnson & Johnson, and we've worked with them on several brands. So Johnson & Johnson is a huge company. They're not just Band-Aid or or baby shampoo. They have many brands. Listerine, we worked with them on reimagining that brand, and Rogaine. Our sort of hair experience got us in the door initially, working on redesigning hair loss products for men, and even to do things that are outside of my personal experience, like working on feminine protection brand OB, redoing their packaging globally. But this project I'm going to show you is more of a project that kind of worked internally within their organization. And Johnson & Johnson is known as the world's largest healthcare company. And because of the world's largest healthcare company, there kind of comes a responsibility with that. It's about not just offering products and innovations that help people around the world feel better, get better, stay alive longer, but it's about also putting out their employees or putting out a priority for each person who works for the organization to look at health as something that's a priority to them. So they came to us saying, like, we want to create a global campaign, a branding effort that would allow them to kind of reach a very special audience, their own employees, their own team, every person, from person at the highest level to the person at the plant, like, to be able to say, we want to create a campaign that helps all of us at Johnson & Johnson look at ourselves personally and look at the way we live our lives, and to create an incentive for them each to get a health assessment and to know their numbers about where they're at in their health journey, and to inspire them to then maintain a lifestyle that's healthy and productive around this idea of being empowered by knowing where you're at with your numbers. So these are just some pages from the briefing they gave us. And usually in the process of any design project, it starts with this process of like starting from the beginning, getting a full understanding from the client, what they're up to, what is it that they're after, and having an understanding overall how what their goals are. And in this case, they were in the process of trying to do this on their own, and they were at like 65% participation, and they set a goal of like, if we can just get 80%, let's try to raise it 20% more and get 80% of our employees around the world to participate in this program, to know their numbers and take the next step. So with this project, like all projects that you're already working on yourselves as students, it becomes this idea of like the process and how process makes perfect. Like, if you work in a certain way, if you follow the steps of design as you've been taught in this school and in other ways, that you will find a way to get to a solution that you need. So it's about starting with discovery and research and creating a concept, and then testing that concept and developing it further into more iterations, and then revisions, and then finally getting to the point where you have the final piece and creating production, and you get down to the smiley face at the end, and then you probably repeat after that. So in our case, we would have these briefing meetings, and then we would understand who they were. And then we would start by working through this process of concept development. And our first step was always, in general, in some way or another, maybe it's not this elaborate, but we always look at like, what's out there, like what kind of work is out there from other designers, from other creative teams, from other people. And let's create like a set of showcases that show projects that inspire us, both in their approach and their tactics, or in their visual decisions, or in the kind of aesthetics they use. So these are just pages from that presentation that we shared with them. And the purpose of this is that we want to, as designers, work collaboratively with our clients, with our partners, because it's not about us being these magically talented people who have all the answers. That we are magically talented, but we're magically talented in collaborating with others, because our clients, they have a deeper understanding of the world they're in, and they have the ability to bring out great ideas. And if we can bring our visual experience, our ability to, see things beyond what they could be, and we work with them in a way where we're having conversations, then that's where the great ideas come from. So by having meetings that don't have a design that they have to decide whether they like or not, instead give them stories about how other organizations have approached similar problems, kind of visual tactics that they use, and visual tactics that might be workable in the projects we're doing, like this one. Then we begin to learn what's connecting with them and what's working with them, so that we can little by little get there. And then part of that process also has to do with like facing this blank sheet of paper, like, what's this campaign going to be about? How do we start from nothing and get us there? And that could be a very scary thing. And usually it comes down to like really working in this team way, where you do brainstorming and you write down things, and if you do this in a way where you ask questions, you're methodical about it, you allow for dumb ideas, or you allow for not knowing, and then you little by little organize it and take it to the next step, and it becomes more and more apparent like where you want to go. And in this case, we're able to like brainstorm, remember what we've learned from our research, know what we got the responses for in our initial meetings, and then begin to take ideas in a verbal way. So in this case, it was like presenting ideas, like 3 ideas that were not designs, they were just concepts, like make it count, the Everybody Project, switch on. These were 3 ideas, and we would show them in this form where each one had a set of values that went with them, and each of them had a mood board, a visual mood board that showed kind of the intent of the project. And from there, we would decide on the ones that connected with the most, and come back in the next meeting with a deck that kind of looked like this, where we would create what this could look like in terms of visualness. So this is Make It Count and the Everybody Project. So we presented these 2 ideas that had to do with really like being like straightforward about the idea, having a kind of an excitement about it in a way, but also being matter of fact, or being exciting without taking too much away from the fact that we're interested in better health for everybody. And with this project, like many meetings, the client really loved both of our ideas, and we like them both. We like parts of both of them. Can we put them together? And at first, of course, it's like, no, you can't. But then when we think about it, it's like, yes, we can. All the values of one from the other, and we put together the Everybody Project, the look and feel of it, with the idea of Make It Count, and created a brand, a campaign brand that connected everything that was needed in the goals. So Make It Count became the idea, and Make It Count was around this idea of utilizing photography in like an authentic way by showing them these images and saying that we think that the best spokespersons for this campaign, the best way to say that we're the healthiest company in the world, is to show the employees, to show them in an authentic way, regardless of where they are in their health journey. Everyone's different, and everyone has a positive spirit that's energetic and honest and inspiring. So we put together this idea of how that kind of photography had been done in the past by classic photographers, through the ages, and showcase all these kind of celebrities doing this sort of motion, and say that, let's treat our global employees as celebrities as well. And so it was about planning a series of photo shoots. And in a way, that's where the campaign started, by announcing that we need people to volunteer to be part of these photo shoots throughout different offices around the world, and to kind of create this buzz about like what was going on, and just then get people to do their thing, and to hire. We hired a photographer who I'd worked with before, who had that kind of the exact look that we wanted, and then ended up having this really great set of photo shoots with a range of different kinds of people. And then the results came in, and it was like, it was exactly what we were hoping for, and even better, getting a range of different kinds of people, and attitude and spirit, and even some impressive stunts of athleticism. And then it was just a matter of like plugging in the idea, doing the photo edits, plugging in the idea, and creating a series of promotional pieces, posters, banners, both analog and digital, that would go throughout the company, and then repeating this in 2 more local ways, having photographers around the world, giving them a toolkit, and having them create their own set of local photographs in the same style. So that everyone got a chance to kind of be a star for 15 minutes, and then just putting it out throughout the company, inspiring people to both participate in getting the numbers, but also participate in having a healthy lifestyle and being proud of where they work at. This idea of working at the world's largest healthcare organization, and yeah, we went even from the top person. This is the CEO here on the top left, working out, doing by example. And then having lots of programs that went with it, incentive programs, giving away prizes for getting your numbers, or even putting together talks or workshops on cooking for better life, or yoga exercise classes, and just making it pervasive throughout the whole organization, and having it be part of their value system. Like being healthy is part of what it means to be part of the J&J brand. And it just became super successful beyond, I think, what everyone had hoped for. People participated in getting their numbers, and created just a beautiful vibe of healthiness throughout the company, and even down to the local levels where places that we weren't even involved, because we were able to let this thing loose and have people make their own versions of this kind of visual campaign in this like really kind of grassroots way. And so it became just a really great result, like much more than we were hoping for. Like I said earlier, they started off at around 64%, and they hoped for 80, and they got to 95 worldwide. And on the regional level, the Americas 99%. I mean, that's incredible. And even throughout the different sectors, whether it's pharmaceuticals or corporate level or consumer products, 100% on those two. So it just showed us that the power of this, of communication, of branding, and of connecting and making people aware of what your internal values are as a brand, and how you can live through those values, not only in the work you do as a brand, but in the life you live. So that's our case study as we zoom back to see the Johnson & Johnson logo with all the people inside. And that is it. So thank you for sharing with me these different case studies and thoughts on branding, and hope to see you in school soon.